Talk to me about Tesla. How do you view this whole situation?
Look, when you invest in an entrepreneur, you get the entrepreneur, and Elon is quite the entrepreneur. So how can anybody expect anything different? And if you look at the great companies right now with the largest market caps, I mean, Apple, Steve Jobs, everybody complained at one point or another about Steve. He got fired. You look at Amazon, everybody complained about Jeff. Oh, he's not trying to make any money. He's not giving guidance. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. Reed Hastings, the same thing. You know, when you invest in an entrepreneur, you get the personality. And if that's not appropriate, if you don't think it's right, buy another stock.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, the fundamentals matter, don't they? I mean, whether Tesla's going to go private or not, that's at the heart of this conversation.
But fundamentals, it depends where you are in your life cycle, right, or the growth cycle of the company. You know, if you look at the companies I just mentioned, you know, everybody complained about Amazon. Fundamentals matter. Everybody complained about Netflix. Fundamentals mattered. Again, Steve Jobs got fired from Apple. Fundamentals matter, and they brought in John Sculley, a traditional entrepreneur or a traditional CEO who was good at what he did, but he wasn't the guy to drive Apple to new heights. They had to bring Steve back. That's just the nature of great companies. These guys, you know, they don't cash out like me. They stay there because they're committed and they're dedicated, and you've got to take the, you know, some of the uniqueness of each person as part of what you invest in.
If you were a shareholder in Tesla, and I don't believe you are, correct me if I am wrong.
No, I'm not.
How should shareholders, though, feel about a tweet coming out saying funding secured, the stock gets halted? Now what if the deal doesn't happen?
I mean, look, I guess that's the way we run the country, run some companies now, too. But what I would tell Elon, and I don't know him at all, and I do have 2 Teslas, by the way, I would tell him shorts are your friends. I mean, you know, going back 20 years when we ran broadcast.com, you know, we were like a lot of internet companies heavily shorted. And, you know, the beauty of shorts is if you have a good quarter, if you do your job, then they have to buy back the stock at some point. And so I would sit down with them and say, look, rather than getting all upset about shorts, the more people that short your stock, the better position you have, the more, you know, the more buyers you have in waiting. And so I think that's kind of the attitude someone's got to get to him. But again, this is a guy who's sleeping in the factory. This is a guy who's pushing. And if you go through the list of all the companies I just mentioned, all the FANGs, you know, maybe with the exception of Google. I mean, even Facebook. When Facebook went public, then they had the questions about mobile. Then people questioned whether or not Zuckerberg can run it. Now Facebook's going through other issues. Again, people are questioning Zuckerberg. Great entrepreneurs who are so committed to their companies that they are never going to leave. They want to take it as far as they can take it. They are going to be unique, and there are going to be issues in how they address the public and how they address shareholders. And that's the beauty of why those companies are so amazing and so big. And so I would tell shareholders, you know, be grateful that you have somebody that committed to the company and recognize that, you know, being unique is what has helped make Elon or help make Tesla so successful.
You think he's taken the shorts too seriously or
yeah,
become
absolutely.
Consumed with what short sellers have been saying?
Yeah, it's hard not to, right? When it's your baby, a lot of times it's hard not to take all that personally. It's hard not to feel it inside of you. You know, to be a great entrepreneur, you've got to be so competitive. And all the people that I've mentioned all had their persnickety issues, but they were all incredibly competitive, and including Elon. And when you're that competitive and people are nailing and talking bad about your family like that, it's hard not to respond. And he's got to learn not to respond. But look, it happens to me talking about the Mavericks. It happens to a lot of different people when you're criticized. It's hard not to return fire sometimes.
Let me ask you this. I'm intrigued in and of itself by the fact that you don't own Tesla. I mean, you've owned high valuation stocks in the past. Why not this one?
I just don't know the industry well enough. I mean, you know, I know streaming, so I've owned Netflix since '50. You know, I know Amazon and what they've done, and I've owned it off and on for a long time when it was single digits, all the way up until I sold it, I think, at the 900s. And then when it came back to 700, I went all in and just bought, you know, more than I probably should have at the time, and now I'm happy about it. So, you know, those are industries that I fully understand, and those are, you know, Netflix and Amazon are my 2 biggest holdings.